Diana Clark found the first proof of her husband's affair only 3 years into her marriage, and for the next 16 years, she never said his name out loud in that context. Not once. This is the story of a woman who stayed, but never stayed numb. Every time she found new evidence, she didn't confront her husband. She wrote a letter instead. A letter she never sent. 16 years later, on her daughter's wedding day, Diana handed her every one of those letters in a single box. Not to make her husband look bad, but to make sure her daughter never became her. Savannah, Georgia, a house on East Gaston Street. Diana was 31 and her daughter Amelia was only 2, asleep upstairs with her thumb near her mouth. Victor Langford's overcoat was hanging in the kitchen. Diana checked the pocket without thinking, not out of suspicion, just habit. She found a receipt. The mansion on Forsyth Park, 2 glasses of wine, a charge for a second night nobody had ever mentioned. She stood there for a long time, listening to the refrigerator hum. Then she folded the receipt back exactly the way she'd found it and put it away. That night, she buried the truth instead of speaking it. She told herself it was because Amelia had an ear infection, because Victor had court in the morning, because the timing wasn't right. But the right timing never comes. It's just a story we tell ourselves so we don't have to be brave yet. That night, Diana went to the guest room, to the old desk that still held stationery from her college days at the Savannah College of Art and Design. She started writing. Victor, I found the receipt. I know exactly what a hotel for. Blocks from your office means when you tell me you're working late. I'm not writing this for you to read. I don't even know why I'm writing it. I just know that if I don't put it somewhere, it's going to eat me alive from the inside. I'm going to stay. Amelia can't even talk yet. She doesn't need a broken home before she's said her first word. Maybe I'll leave when she's older. Maybe I won't. I don't know yet. D. She sealed the letter, wrote nothing on the envelope, and slid it inside a shoebox, buried at the back of her closet, beneath a pair of boots she never wore. It would not be the last one. From the outside, the Langfords looked like a success story. Victor built a respected maritime law practice near River Street, working with shipping companies that moved cargo through the port of Savannah, one of the busiest ports in the country. His office overlooked the river. His handshake closed deals before the paperwork was even drawn up. Diana taught art history at Armstrong campus, later part of Georgia Southern University, and painted watercolors of the marshlands on weekends, at church, at school events, at gallery openings at the Telfair Academy. People called them goals. One woman once told her, meaning it as a compliment, "You two make it look so easy." Diana smiled. Let the moment pass without correcting it, because by then that had already become the skill she was best at. It wasn't just one affair. Over the years, Diana came to understand it was a pattern. It was never loud. Victor was careful in this part of his life, too, a lawyer in everything he did. But carelessness always slips through eventually. A perfume that wasn't hers on a coat collar, a hotel loyalty card in a jacket pocket, a phone left face down on the table just a half-second too fast. Every time Diana wrote a letter instead of raising her voice. Not every year. Some years the evidence was too thin and she made herself wait. By Amelia's 10th birthday, there were 4 letters in the box. By her 16th, there were 9. She never once asked Victor directly. Instead, she built an entire second life made of restraint, as if her marriage was a long negotiation, where she held all the evidence and never once used it. From the letters, year 6. I don't check his pockets anymore. I don't need to. Somehow it still finds me. Why didn't you just leave? Her friend Renata Vasquez asked her once, over coffee at the Sentient Bean on Broughton Street, the year Amelia turned 12. Because leaving felt like handing him the whole story, Diana said, and I wasn't ready to let him write the ending. It was the most honest thing she'd said out loud in years. It scared her enough that she didn't say anything like it again for a long time. Some people cheat, and some people learn how to endure it, until enduring becomes its own kind of skill. Amelia Langford grew up believing her parents had a steady marriage. Not passionate, maybe, but solid. The kind she assumed all marriages eventually became. She noticed things the way children notice things without having words for them. A strange quiet at the dinner table some nights. Her mother standing at the sink long after the dishes were done, staring into the dark backyard. She never once saw her mother and father raise their voices at each other. Not one real fight in 18 years. As a little girl, she thought that meant they were happy. Amelia never watched her mother fight for anything. So without ever being told, she learned something instead. That in love, staying quiet is its own kind of loyalty. She noticed her father was the kind of man people liked instantly, but rarely looked at closely. He remembered names. He filled a room. Years later, Amelia would say, "He was a wonderful father. In every way you could actually see. He never missed a recital. He paid for everything without complaint." The summer she turned 14, he taught her to sail off Tybee Island, out on the water where the Savannah River meets the sea. What she never saw, because Diana had built her silence like architecture, brick by careful brick, was the cost of it. By the time Amelia left for the University of Georgia in Athens, she carried a belief she couldn't have named out loud. That real, adult love meant learning to look past things. She had watched her mother do exactly that for 18 years, and mistaken the discipline for peace. At Athens, Amelia met Nathan Cole, a warm, easygoing graduate assistant in the business school. 3 years later, he proposed to her on the banks of the Savannah River near River Street, the same stretch of water where Victor had once taken Diana on their second date, half a lifetime earlier, before either of them knew what that river would come to mean. Amelia said yes instantly. She had no idea how much her mother's silence had shaped that yes. She only knew it felt right. The way things feel right when you've never been taught to ask the second question. The wedding was set for June at the Cathedral Basilica of St. John the Baptist, with the reception at Savannah River Landing. Diana threw herself into the planning with an intensity that surprised even her. Flowers, seating charts, the exact shade of dress that wouldn't outshine her daughter's. It was easier than sitting with the 16th letter, written the year before, after she found a second phone hidden in Victor's golf bag. Its lock screen showed a woman she didn't recognize, standing on a boat that wasn't theirs. From the letters, year 14. You lie to me, and I already know the truth. And somehow we both still sit down for dinner like nothing happened at all. By now, the letters weren't about proof anymore. They were about staying honest with herself. In a life built increasingly on things left unsaid. 3 weeks before the wedding, Renata, now retired from her nursing career at Memorial Health University Medical Center, finally asked the question Diana had avoided for over a decade. What are you going to do with all of it? After the wedding, after it's just you and him in that house. Diana was arranging flowers on the kitchen island. Her hands went still. For a moment, neither woman said anything, and the silence in that kitchen said more than either of them could have. I don't know, Diana finally said. I used to think I'd leave once she was married. Now that it's actually here, I don't know if I have the nerve. It's not nerve you're missing, Renata said. It's permission. And Diana, you don't need his. Diana didn't answer. But that night, for the first time in 16 years, she took the box down and read every letter, start to finish. And at 2 in the morning, it hit her. She hadn't been writing these letters for Victor. She had been writing them for Amelia. She just hadn't known it yet. 2 weeks before the wedding, Amelia came home early, supposedly to finalize the seating chart. But when she showed up at her parents' door on a Tuesday afternoon, her mascara was smudged and her hands were shaking. Nathan's been texting someone, she said, still holding her car keys. A coworker. I saw it on his laptop, and by accident, Mom. I swears it's probably nothing. It's probably completely nothing. But I can't stop thinking about it. Diana led her to the kitchen table, the same table where, years ago, she had once folded a receipt back into a coat pocket and swallowed the truth whole. Show me, Diana said. Amelia hesitated. You think I'm overreacting? I think, Diana said carefully, you already know the answer. And you're asking me because part of you is hoping I'll talk you out of it. Amelia's face crumpled. The wedding is in 2 weeks, Mom. Everything's paid for. Nana Ruth is already flying in from Charlotte. I can't just... You can, Diana said. You can do anything. The question isn't whether you can. It's whether you want to spend the next 16 years finding reasons why you shouldn't. The words left her mouth before she'd even decided to say them. And in her own voice, she heard the echo of every year she'd spent choosing silence over truth. Amelia stared at her. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe suspicion. "That's a strange thing to say," Amelia said slowly. 16 years. Mom, that's almost exactly my age. Diana looked down at her hands. "Is there something you're not telling me?" Amelia asked. Outside, a car passed on East Gaston Street, its headlights sweeping across the kitchen wall, and Diana realized the moment she had spent 16 years both preparing for and dreading had just arrived. 2 weeks early, uninvited, exactly the way the truth usually shows up. Diana didn't tell her everything that night. She only said that long marriages carry private, weather that outsiders never see, and she urged Amelia to talk to Nathan directly, before the wedding, not after. To ask him plainly, instead of letting the question calcify into something she'd carry silently for years. It was, Diana realized later, the first genuinely honest piece of marriage advice she had ever given her daughter, advice she had never once taken herself. Amelia drove back to Athens the next morning, unsettled but determined to talk to Nathan. That evening, Victor came home later than usual, smelling faintly of a cologne Diana didn't recognize. He kissed her cheek, asked about the wedding plans, complained about a shipment delayed at the Georgia Ports Authority terminal, and ate dinner without once asking if something was wrong. Diana watched him the way she'd watched him for 16 years, quietly, carefully cataloging every detail, and thought, he has no idea the ground has already shifted under him. After he went up to bed, she pulled the box down from the closet and, for the first time, laid every letter out across the guest room bed in order, like a woman finally preparing to try her own case. She still didn't know what she was going to do with them. But she knew, with a certainty that felt physical, that they weren't staying in that box much longer. Amelia confronted Nathan at his apartment in Athens on a Thursday evening. What she found wasn't an affair exactly. It was worse in its own quiet way. Months of an emotional connection with a coworker, something that had never turned physical, Nathan swore, but something he clearly hadn't tried very hard to stop either. "I love you," Nathan said, sitting on the edge of the bed, his voice breaking in a way she couldn't tell was real or performed, and that uncertainty scared her more than anything else. It wasn't going anywhere. I got careless. Careless. The word landed strangely, like she'd heard it somewhere before. She couldn't place where. She didn't call off the wedding that night. She told him she needed time, drove back to Savannah in silence along I-16, and arrived at her parents' house near midnight, letting herself in with her old key. The house was dark, except for a light under the guest room door. Amelia found her mother there, sitting cross-legged on the bed, surrounded by envelopes. Dozens of them, some yellowed, some crisp, all in the same handwriting, sorted by year, like a case file being built at 1 in the morning. "Mom?" Diana looked up. There was no scramble to hide anything, no embarrassment, just the stillness of someone who had been carrying something enormous for a very long time, and had finally set it down. Neither of them spoke for a moment. The lamp buzzed faintly. Somewhere outside, a dog barked once and went quiet. "Sit," Diana said. "I think it's time you read some of these." Amelia sat on the floor, her back against the bed frame, and read them in order, starting with the one written when she was 2, ending with the one written the year before. By the 3rd letter, she was crying. By the 7th, she'd stopped. By the last one, she just sat there, holding the paper, staring at nothing. From the letters, year 15. "I'm afraid I've stopped being hurt by this. I'm afraid that's worse. He's been doing this the entire time," she finally said. It wasn't a question. "Since before you could walk," Diana said. "I don't know every name. I only know the pattern. And you stayed." "I stayed," Diana said, "for reasons that felt right at the time. You were small. Then you weren't small anymore, but you were in school, and leaving felt like it would break something I couldn't fix. Then high school, then college." She gestured at the room, at the house, at all of it. "Then it was 16 years. And I'd built my entire identity around being the woman who endured it gracefully. Leaving would have meant admitting that grace was just fear wearing a nicer coat." Amelia wiped her face. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to hate your father before. You had the chance to know him as your own person, good and bad both. And because, Diana stopped, steadying her voice. Because some part of me was ashamed. Not of him, of me, of staying. I know it's not fair that a woman should feel shame for surviving her own marriage. But I did. Some days I still do. I almost married someone who's already doing this, Amelia said quietly. I found out 2 weeks before the wedding. And my very first instinct, Mom, was to figure out how to live with it, not to leave, to manage it. Like I already knew how. Like I'd been trained for it my whole life without anyone ever telling me the class was happening. The words hit Diana harder than she expected, because she recognized instantly that her daughter was right. Amelia had absorbed the architecture of Diana's silence without ever being handed the blueprint. She had learned it the way children learn everything that matters most. Not from what their parents say, but from what their parents do when they think no one is watching. I don't want these letters to be an apology, Diana said. I don't think I owe you one. Exactly. I did the best I understood how to do with what I had. But I think I owe you the truth. Now, while there's still time for it to mean something for you, instead of just being a confession for me, Amelia looked down at the stack of envelopes in her lap. 16 years folded into paper, kept in the dark. What do you want me to do with them? I don't want you to do anything with them, Diana said. I want you to decide something with them. There's a difference. I spent 16 years doing nothing so carefully that it started to feel like a decision. Don't let it feel like a decision if it isn't one. Diana confronted Victor 3 days later, in the same kitchen where she'd once folded a receipt, back into his coat, pocket, and buried the truth whole. She didn't raise her voice. She laid a handful of the letters on the table, not all 16, just enough, and watched his face move through recognition, then denial, then a kind of collapse that men like Victor, who spend their lives controlling every room they enter, rarely let anyone see. You knew, he said, this whole time. You knew and you stayed. I stayed for our daughter, Diana said. Not for you. I need that distinction to be permanently clear between us. Whatever happens next. So what happens next? For the first time in years, his voice had no courtroom polish left in it. It sounded genuinely afraid. I don't know yet, Diana said. I'm 51 years old. My daughter is getting married in 11 days, and I intend to walk her down that aisle myself, since you clearly weren't paying close enough attention to the people you were supposed to be walking beside. After that, Victor, I'm going to figure out who I am when I'm not managing your secrets for you. I imagine a lawyer will be involved. It wasn't the confrontation Victor had probably imagined. In whatever version of this moment had occasionally crossed his mind over 16 years of careful, calculated risk. No shouting, no thrown dishes, no dramatic exit. Just a woman who had finally, completely run out of reasons to protect him. The wedding didn't happen on its original date. Amelia postponed it, not canceled. Postponed, a distinction she made, very clear to her. Stunned future mother-in-law and an equally stunned Nathan. She asked for 6 months. During that time, Nathan had to attend couples counseling in Athens and, in her words, be honest in ways that are uncomfortable. On a schedule, whether he feels like it or not. That's not very romantic, Nathan said when she told him. No, Amelia agreed. It's not. It's a boundary. My whole life I thought those were the same thing romance was supposed to replace. They're not. Diana filed for divorce the following spring, 4 months after the postponed wedding date came and went. By Savannah standards, it was a quiet dissolution. No public scandal. No dramatic courtroom scene. Just the slow, unglamorous work of unwinding 29 years, handled mostly through lawyers near Chippewa Square. Victor didn't contest it. Diana suspected some part of him had been waiting 16 years to finally stop. Performing too. She kept the house on East Gaston Street. She sold the guest room desk, the one from her old college days, but she kept the shoebox. Amelia and Nathan married that October, in a smaller ceremony at the Wormslow Historic Site, under the long avenue of live oaks and Spanish moss Amelia had loved since childhood. Diana walked her daughter down the aisle alone. Victor wasn't invited, not out of cruelty, Amelia explained gently, but because she needed her wedding to be a beginning, completely free of the pattern it might otherwise have quietly inherited. Late that night, after the guests had gone, After the band had packed up its instruments, Amelia found her mother sitting alone at the edge of the reception tent. Still in her dress, a single letter in her hand, the last one. The one she'd kept for herself? "Mom," Amelia said, sitting down beside her, her voice suddenly very small, very young. "Why didn't you ever say anything? All those years. Why didn't you just say it?" Diana was quiet for a long moment, the kind of quiet that had once been her whole language. "Because I thought I was protecting you," she finally said, slowly, tired in a way that had nothing to do with the hour. "I thought if I carried it, you wouldn't have to." She looked down at the letter in her daughter's hands. "But I think maybe I wasn't protecting you at all," Diana said. "Maybe I was just teaching you how to disappear quietly, how to make yourself smaller so a house could stay standing. And I didn't even know I was doing it until I watched you almost do the exact same thing." Amelia didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She just reached over and took her mother's hand, the way Diana had taken hers 1,000 times when Amelia was small and afraid of something in the dark. Later, by the reflecting pool, sunlight long gone, the string light swaying gently overhead, Diana found her voice again. "I kept one of the letters," Amelia said. "The last one. Is that okay?" "It's more than okay," Diana said. "What are you going to do with it?" Amelia thought about it for a long moment, turning her wedding ring once around her finger, a habit Diana had never seen her have before. "I'm going to write one of my own tonight," Amelia said. "Not to hide anything. To remember what it felt like right now, to choose honesty instead of quietly enduring something, so I can prove it to myself later if I ever forget." Diana felt something in her chest loosen that had been tight for almost 30 years. "That's the entire difference," she said. "That's the whole difference between what I did and what you're about to do." "What's that?" "I wrote mine to survive a silence I didn't know how to break," Diana said. "Write yours to remember a courage you already have." That day, Diana didn't hand her daughter a story about a broken marriage. She handed her a choice. The one choice Diana had never once let herself take. Somewhere behind them, the band started playing one last song for the night. Amelia Stone, the name still new enough to feel like borrowed clothing, took her mother's hand and pulled her gently back toward the light and the noise, leaving 16 years of unspoken letters exactly where they belonged, understood, and finally mercifully finished. Some people cheat, and some people learn to endure it, until enduring becomes the only language they know how to speak. A marriage that looked perfect from the outside was, underneath, a woman's 16-year war fought entirely in silence. But the real lesson here was never about how much she could survive. It was about what she finally taught her daughter, that silence isn't love. Sometimes the truth is the only kindness that ever really counts.